Hello and welcome back to another RPG Maker Unite tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about states and traits. So with that said, let's get started. Alright, so let's just get right into it. First we're going to go to edit states right here, and you'll see that we have some basic states and then some custom states. You try to right click on the basic states, you can't add anything, so they just come with these two generic states, dead and guard. So we can click on them, we can look a little bit over here in the inspector, but we can also go down to custom states right here, and this is where we can add a new state if we want to. Let's just try looking at one of these, particularly, let's just click on poison right here. We can see that we have options to set the name, put in an icon right here, put in the priority. What this priority is meaning is if you have multiple states on a character, which one is going to show? The higher number will show. So in animation here, this is what is happening to the character during this state. And so you can see that nothing is happening during the state. So the player will just be standing like normal. There'll be no animation playing above him that he's poisoned, things like that. If you have status ailment, it means that the player will be looking normal, but he will have a little icon showing that he is poisoned, for example. There's also a sleep animation, or the player or the character will be dead. And so these are just what the animations of the person that this is affected by with. So right now it has status ailment. Now, where are they getting this status ailment animation from? Well, what they're doing is they're going down here and you go to the resource manager into SCV battle and then state overlay. And then this is where you're going to add a new overlay. So we got the poison right here, and this is exactly what it's going to be playing. Now, if we wanted this to be faster, which I probably would, then you would put it down a little higher or down a little lower here. So let's go fit 10. You can see it gets a little faster. Let's do 5, and that looks a lot better. So you would set this up right here. You can always add a new one, and then you can just set this up right here, import this. Also have a easy to go asset creator thing where if you click on the system slice here, you can select the image and then you can go down to state image. This one is particularly from the MZ one, so I just want to make sure I have MZ selected, and then I can export it. And then when I export it here, we can go to the file, and it went wrong because I selected icons. So let's delete these. Go back to here and select states, then export. And now you can see that the states are implemented correctly. Then I could go right here and add. I can add that sprite that I did, set up the frames, and then the animation speed, and that's how you would add a state. All right, so now that we know how to do that, let's go back to the poison one up here. And so that is what the overlay is going to be. You can see that it's selected right here to do the poison. Now you can do the apply state. Now this is going to be when can this state be applied. Right now it's only during battle. Then there's also during movement, which is when you're on the map moving around. And then there's also always. So this poison right now will end as soon as the battle's over. Now, if we wanted it to also continue during the movement after the battle, then we would click on always. Now moving on, you can see that there are restrictions here. Currently, there's none with the poison, but you can have it to where the player or the character will only attack an enemy. It will attack anyone. It will attack an ally only. It cannot act, so it cannot do anything, like think of perilous, or it will escape. It will just auto escape the game. So that could be interesting. You could see how these things could be useful. Now, the traits we're going to go to here in a little bit, but just note that you can add as many traits as you want. Now, the auto removal conditions, they're kind of for what needs to happen before the state can be removed. So, for example, you could have a battle end. So, when the battle's over, the states are removed. You could have a mid battle where the turn end is what removes it. And if you do select turn end, you need to give it how many turns, and you can give it a random range if you want. So poison only lasts for 3 to 5 turns in this case. Now you have action end. Action end is going to be when the character is done with their attack or their skill. Then it will go away. Turn end means that it will go away after the end of all the character's turns. Now these last two are removed by restriction. So if this one is checked, that means that when the another state gets applied, then it will overwrite this state. And then you have removed by damage. And what this means is that when the character with this state applied on takes damage, there is a percent chance that the state will be removed. So in this one, if I get attacked, I could have it be removed by having it at 100%. Right? Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that this during battle section right here, if any of these are checked, these all count as ors. So it won't be looking for this and this and this. It means that this can make it go away, or this can make it go away, or this can make it go away. You can always have all these checked or whatever, but it only is going to be one of these conditions that actually removes the state. Now moving down here to during movement, this is when you are outside on the map moving around. That means that in about 200 steps, it's going to remove the state, right? Now, these are referring to what you chose right here. So during battle is referring to these are the conditions. During movement is referring to this condition, and then always is referring to this condition. So again, this is just repeat of these ones up here. If this character gets another state restriction, then it will remove this one. Or if it's taking damage, then it will remove this one. Now there's an additional always step right here where this will say how many steps it takes in order for it to trigger again. So this one is how long it lasts and then the interval of it going off. So the poison will happen, in this case, every 100 steps, but a total of 200 steps. And again, that is only if always is checked. So on this poison, you might want always because you can be poisoned after the battle in a lot of games. And then we move down to messages right here. You can see that it basically says what it's going to say. The number one just means that the person that the state is on, so the character the state's on, and then you can add one if the state persists or if it's recovered. And basically that is what a state is. So now where can we have states be applied? So for that, you can go to skills and you can do just some of your, let's just go to attack, for example. And you can see that you can come down here and you can say that it can have an effect. And this effect can be from the states, okay? And you can add a state or remove it. And this is where you can select from your states. All right, so on your skills, your custom skills, these are where you're going to set states for those skills. Now, another place that you can set states is going to be in the equipment. So in the weapon, for example, you can see that this weapon has some stats. Then we can also say that it has a trait. And one of those trait types can be a resistance state probability. And then you can select what state that is. And then you can say what percent chance of that state happening. Now, there's also this attack. And then you can select a state attack, attack state. And then this you can choose from that as well. So that's where these traits come in, is they can apply some of these states on things like weapons. I'm not sure about armor. Let's check, but I would guess so. So you could say, what was it? Attack. Yep. And then you can have a state, or you could do the resistances and state probability, as well as the state nullification and all those other things. All right. So now let's go over traits. And first, let's see exactly where traits can be set. So let's go over here. We can see that in the characters, in the actors here, if you click on here, you can see that traits can be set in a specific actor. Now, if we go down to edit classes and click on hero, you can scroll down and see that traits can be set on classes. I'm not sure about vehicles. Nope. So yep, classes and actors. Then you can go to battles and you can go to enemies and you can come down here and see that traits can be set on enemies. Now let's get this whole thing up here. And let's go down to skills. I think I've already showed this, but traits can be set on skills. And they can be set on skills by their effect on target and then their effect on user. So each one has their own area where you can set effects right here. And then you can go down here and set effects right here as well. All right, so you got them in skills. In states right here, this is where you can also add traits. And then you got equipment, such as weapons. We went over this one where you can add traits. And then we went over armor, where you can add traits. And then there are items where you can, as you guess, add traits. And I guess technically these are effects, so not all of them are specifically traits, but they do have some of the same options. So I'm just going to include them as places where you can add things like states and other parameters. And then I think that is it. If we go down to types, you can't add them in types. You can't add them in the battle effects themselves. And so, yeah, So there is quite a few places where you can add these traits. So now let's just kind of look at some of the options and get more in depth with them. So let's go to a sword right here. Let's go down to traits right here. And if we click on add, you can see that we have a few different options. We have resistances, parameters, attack, skill, equipment, and other. So if we click on existences, we now have further options right here for element effectiveness, debuff probability, state probability, or state nullification. And then with those, you have more options to select what type, and then an additional option to give the percentage. And that is basically how the traits work. If you select another one like parameters, you can then come here and you can select what kind of a thing. If there's a sub parameter section, like here, you have extra and special. If you click special, you'll have these ones you can set. If you click on extra, you'll have these ones you can set. And then you set a value for that. Then if you go down to attack, you can see these are all the higher sub categories. If you select one of those, you'll get the lowest subcategory, and then you can select the value. If you select skills, you'll see the skill types. If you select one of these, you'll see those skill types that you can actually set. And then equipment, you can do the same thing. Equip weapon, and you can select the weapons. And then for other, you got a few different things. You can do number of additional actions, special flag, or party ability. So with number of additional attacks, this stands for the chance that you will perform 2 attacks. So if this was 100% and you do a normal attack, you will do 2 normal attacks. If you go through special flags, you can see that you have auto battle, guard, substitute. So this means that you won't control your battle. It will just automatically attack. Guard means that you will take 50% less damage, kind of a thing. Substitute means that you will guard low level allies. And then preserve TP means that you will take your TP outside of the battle to the next one. All right. And then you got party abilities. So you can have encounters, number of encounters. One thing I do want to show you is that if you go to enemies, for example, under their trait, if you go to other, they have another one that says collapse effect. Then you can say whether it's a regular collapse, a boss collapse, disappear, or do not disappear. So you can see that depending on what you're editing, they might have some different traits. So go ahead and take a look at all these. They're pretty useful actually, and pretty flexible really. So yeah, hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any comments, you can comment below. We'll try to get you figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.